The weather destroyed the plane, but the island wants to destroy them. At the beginning of the story, we are shown an airport, where we see a pilot named Brody. He is quickly walking toward the aircraft while talking to his daughter on a video call. His daughter says that she watched the news in the morning, where it was being reported that the weather in the area he is going to is extremely bad. Because of that, many flights have already been cancelled. So she tells him that he should also cancel his flight and come back home. But Brody smiles and replies that he has safely flown the aircraft many times before in such weather, so she shouldn't worry. He will come back home very soon. Hearing this, his daughter becomes happy and ends the call. After that, Brody enters the aircraft's cockpit and meets his co-pilot. The co-pilot was a little nervous because today he was going to fly the plane for the very first time. Then a flight attendant comes and calls Brody outside, where a police officer tells Brody that due to an emergency, he will have to take a murderer with him on this flight. That murderer is a very powerful and dangerous person who has a murder case on him, and now he will be taken to another country by plane, where he will be sent to jail for life imprisonment. The police officer tells Brody that they are giving him this responsibility because he is a capable and sensible pilot. Brody agrees and makes Louis Gaspare sit in the last seats so that the other passengers do not face any trouble. After that, all passengers sit on their seats, and Brody comes to the crew to confirm that all passengers have arrived. Then the aircraft takes off. When the plane reaches a higher altitude, Brody switches the aircraft to autopilot and starts talking with the co-pilot about his family. Brody shows the co-pilot his daughter's photo on the mobile and says that he loves his daughter very much. And in this world, they have no one except each other. On the other side, the passengers sitting inside the plane are enjoying their journey, but they had no idea that something very bad is about to happen to them in a little while. Both pilots sitting in the cockpit were also happy, and the plane was flying normally. But then suddenly the weather gets bad, and the aircraft starts shaking a little. Because of this, Brody becomes worried, as he feels something is not right. He announces for all passengers to fasten their seatbelts, and tries to talk to the control tower through the radio. But he fails to communicate, because due to the bad weather, all the radios stop working. Suddenly, a strong bolt of lightning hits the plane, and the plane starts shaking violently. Brody goes outside the cockpit to check the condition of the passengers. Seeing all passengers safe gives Brody a little relief. But now the lights were slowly turning off, and then the plane gets several more shocks, because of which Brody's head hits the ceiling and he falls down, and his forehead gets injured. Seeing this situation, all passengers start panicking even more. Brody quickly goes back to the cockpit, and along with his partner, tries to control the plane. This was a very difficult time for them. Due to the bad weather, they were unable to see anything ahead. Brody says that they must bring the aircraft down, because if the plane gets one more shock, the plane could be destroyed. They immediately start reducing the altitude, and the aircraft begins going down rapidly. The passengers inside the aircraft were very scared. At that moment, the police officer who had come with the criminal Gaspare drops his mobile from his hand. When he opens his seatbelt to pick up his phone, a flight attendant also opens her seatbelt to help him. But because the plane was going down very fast, as soon as they unbuckle, both of them get thrown upward and hit the ceiling with full force. They hit the ceiling so hard that they die instantly. Meanwhile, the aircraft comes to a very low altitude, and somehow both pilots managed to control the plane. But now there wasn't much power left in the aircraft, so Brody could not take the plane to an airport. That's why Brody thinks of bringing the aircraft down and performing a crash landing in the ocean. But then both of them see an island at some distance. After that, Brody changes the aircraft's direction toward the island and decides to land there. After many difficulties, Brody finally manages to make an emergency landing on a road located on that island. Luckily, in this emergency landing, all passengers remain safe and no one gets injured. Just then, a short circuit happens at the back of the aircraft. Seeing it, Brody becomes happy, because it means the aircraft still has a little bit of power left. After all passengers come out of the aircraft, a flight attendant informs Captain Brody that the police officer who came to take the criminal Gaspare has died, and one flight attendant has also died. Brody feels hopeless and exhausted. Meanwhile, the airline owner panics. The plane has vanished. No landing report, and all radio contact is lost. He urgently calls Scarsdale, a top rescue specialist known for recovering missing people. "I want every detail," he orders. "Where is my plane? Where are the passengers?" Scarsdale immediately begins the investigation. On the island, the passengers are worried and confused about why they had to land there. Brody gathers all passengers together and explains, "Because of an emergency situation, we had to land here. There is still a little bit of power left in the plane, so we will fix things and restore whatever we can. Until then, please stay here calmly. Don't panic. We will get out of here very soon." After that, Brody goes back near the plane and checks the systems. But the plane has very low power left, so they will have to wait for help. They take out a map to locate themselves and find out where they have landed. The co-pilot looks at the map and tells Brody, "We are trapped on a private island. This place is extremely dangerous. The people here do not follow any government or law. If they capture us, our lives will be in danger. Even our government won't be able to save us." Hearing this, Brody says, "Then no matter what, we need to call our rescue team here. Only then can they save us. This is the only way to escape." So both of them start trying to repair the radio to call for help. But the lightning strike has completely destroyed the radio. Brody then returns to the passengers and tells them, "The radio is not working because of a technical failure, but don't worry. We will go to the other side of the island, find another radio signal, and inform the control tower of our location. Then they will send the rescue team to save all of you." Here, Brody takes a very big decision. He says, "Tony will go with me." He removes Tony's handcuffs and sets him free. Then he tells the co-pilot, "You stay here and work on repairing the plane's power. I will somehow find a contact signal and bring the rescue team here as fast as possible." After that, Tony and Brody head into the jungle to find a radio. During the walk, Tony thanks Brody for trusting him. Now we finally see the dangerous rebel group living on this island. One of their men comes running to the leader and tells him, "A plane has landed here due to an emergency. There are many people inside it." The leader gives him some cash and tells his men to get ready. Meanwhile, Brody and Tony continue walking deeper into the jungle. Tony asks Brody, "Why did you free me? And where are you taking me now?" Brody replies, "Because I cannot put everyone's lives in danger because of you. There is a dangerous terrorist group here, and you have to face them with me." Tony then reveals, "I have a military background. I served in the US military for many years." After some time, Tony suddenly stops responding. When Brody turns back, Tony is nowhere to be seen. He has escaped from Brody, leaving him alone in the jungle. Brody keeps moving ahead alone and finds an old abandoned factory. Inside, he discovers an old telephone, but it is not working properly. So Brody starts reconnecting the cut wires of the phone. Finally, the phone starts working again. Brody quickly calls the airline's helpline. He tries to tell them his location and everything that happened. But due to poor connection, his voice isn't clear, and the support team cuts the call. So Brody gets an idea. He calls his daughter and tells her to write down his location and send it to the airline office. While he is talking, suddenly a man attacks Brody from behind. Brody struggles but manages to overpower him and knocks him unconscious. Right then, Brody senses another person entering the room, so he quickly hides. But this time, it isn't an enemy. It is Tony, who has already killed multiple rebels and taken their weapons. At the factory, when Brody comes in front of Tony again, Tony hands Brody a gun for his protection. Then they go down to the lower floor of the factory and find a camera. From the camera recordings and the passports lying there, they discover that the terrorists living on this island kidnap people and demand large ransom money from their families. And even after receiving the money, they kill the victims instead of releasing them. Seeing this, Brody realizes that their passengers are in great danger. Both of them leave the factory and find a vehicle parked outside. It belonged to the terrorists Brody fought and killed earlier. They get into the vehicle and rush back toward the plane. Meanwhile, all passengers are waiting, believing Brody will soon bring help. Suddenly, they hear a vehicle approaching. They become happy, thinking the rescue team has arrived. But it's not a rescue team. It is the terrorists from the island. They fire warning shots and scare all passengers. Brody and Tony also hear the gunshots and quickly drive faster toward the plane. The gang leader demands the passenger list from the flight attendant. Scared, she gives it to him immediately. One of the terrorists asks the co-pilot where the senior pilot is. The co-pilot says he went into the jungle and hasn't returned yet. At that moment, Brody and Tony reach there, but they secretly watch everything from afar. A woman tries to escape, but the terrorists shoot and kill her instantly. Brody tries to go save them, but Tony stops him and says, "Stay calm, not now. It's suicide." The gang leader forces all passengers into a bus. He orders 2 terrorists to stay behind and loot everything valuable inside the plane. Then they start taking the passengers to their base. After the terrorists leave, Brody gets angry at Tony. "They took our passengers and you didn't let me go." Tony explains, "They are too many. Even if you went, you would have died alone." They move toward the plane and capture the 2 terrorists stealing items inside. Brody points a gun at them and asks, "Where are they taking the passengers?" One terrorist reveals, "There's a base not far from here. They must have gone there." Meanwhile, Brody's daughter hands the rescue expert the paper Brody wrote, with the plane's location and details. Using satellites, the rescue expert tracks the island. They learn that the island is controlled by a dangerous terrorist group. The rescue expert calls a private military captain, explains the situation, and sends him with weapons and a bag full of money to negotiate if needed. They load up and head toward the island. Back at the plane, Brody discovers that the co-pilot has repaired the power system. The plane has electricity again. He becomes very happy. Brody writes a message on his uniform for the incoming rescue team. and with Tony, heads toward the terrorist base. Through the jungle, they reach the base and sneak inside. The terrorists are recording videos, planning to send them to families to demand ransom. At the same time, the private rescue team arrives at the empty aircraft. Inside they find 2 dead terrorists, the same ones Brody killed. They also find Brody's message, giving directions to the terrorist camp. Inside the camp, Brody and Tony watch closely, waiting for the right moment, and then silently take down 2 terrorists from behind. Then they move further ahead and reach a room where all the passengers are held captive. Brody wants to free them, but many guards are posted outside and he doesn't have the key to the lock, so they start eliminating the guards one by one. Lewis even picks up a hammer and brutally takes down several guards with it. Brody then grabs a key from one of the dead guards and unlocks the room, freeing the passengers. He quickly tells them to get into the same bus in which the terrorists brought them here. The passengers rush toward the bus. Just then, Lewis informs Brody that there is only one exit route by vehicle, but many armed guards are positioned there, ready to shoot as soon as they see them. Brody looks at the terrified passengers and realizes they won't survive if they are caught again. So he makes a risky decision. He tells Louis, "I'll distract all the terrorists. You take the opportunity and escape with the passengers." Louis refuses at first, saying, "They will kill you if you go out there." But Brody replies, "We don't have any other choice." Louis finally agrees. Brody walks out in front of the terrorists and speaks to the gang leader. "I've already informed for help. The rescue team will be here any moment. Let the passengers go." Hearing this, all the terrorists laugh at him and start beating him. The gang leader mocks Brody and says, "Why would I let them go just like that?" Just as they are about to kill Brody, the private rescue team storms in and launches a fierce attack. A heavy gunfight breaks out, and after taking down many terrorists, they successfully rescue Brody and rush him into the bus. But the gang leader sees his men, including his own younger brother, lying dead. Furious with rage, he vows revenge and orders his men to get ready to hunt them all down. Inside the bus, the private team's captain reveals that they are only a 5-man private squad, not the official rescue team. The actual rescue force will take more time to reach the island. Hearing this, Brody panics. He knows they don't have time, because the terrorists will be coming after them soon. So he comes up with a plan. As soon as they reach the plane, Brody tells everyone that the power has been restored, meaning the aircraft can fly again. He orders all passengers to board immediately, because waiting for the rescue team would be a death sentence now. The passengers rush into the plane while Brody checks the systems, and the private soldiers prepare for the incoming attack. Soon, the terrorists arrive and open fire, triggering another intense battle. But this private team has powerful weapons, allowing them to take down dozens of attackers. Brody alerts the team leader that he will start the plane in 5 minutes, and they must get on quickly. He then meets Louis, Tony, and thanks him for standing by his side through all the danger. Brody dodges bullets and gets into the cockpit to power up the aircraft. Meanwhile, Louis runs out of bullets. While searching for ammo inside a bag, he finds the suitcase filled with money. But instead of running with it, he grabs more rounds and continues fighting to protect the plane. Brody manages to turn the plane toward the runway, and the soldiers begin boarding one after another as Louis covers them. The radio starts working again, and Brody gets guidance from the airline owner about a safe landing spot nearby. Everyone gets inside, except Louis. He decides not to board the plane, fearing he'll be arrested again if he returns. So he takes the money bag and tries to escape on foot. The gang leader, blinded by rage, brings a rocket launcher to blow up the plane, but Louis spots him just in time and shoots him dead, saving everyone's lives. Brody sees it and smiles proudly at him. The engines roar, and despite all odds, the plane finally takes off from the deadly island. Brody flies toward the recommended airport, but suddenly the engine catches fire again. With extreme skill and nerves of steel, he performs a dangerous emergency landing. The plane touches down, and every single passenger is safe. The cabin erupts with applause, all cheering for Captain Brody, the man who risked everything to keep them alive. Minutes later, the official rescue team arrives, and the passengers are escorted to safety. Brody sits on the plane steps, exhausted but relieved, as he calls his daughter, finally telling her he's safe. Like if you enjoyed, or subscribe for more thrillers. Turn on notifications. Next adventure coming soon.